we didn't think about that. All right.
Well, to my mind, he's not gonna come out.
Official title of this meeting.
Budget workshop.
It's a conversation.
It's a conversation because it is. Thank
Well, WELC.
Well, unless George is always thinking whatever that vehicle is, and, you know, there is another utility, like you just said, the other one, and is the other one going to handle whatever?
Well, so it all depends what's on what, you know what I mean?
Right.
So we need,
It's a question.
it's just a question for
Do you
clarification.
want me to handle that, or do you want to do it at a board meeting?
I don't think we have to necessarily do it for me, as long as we know it's going to be give us feedback. I just think I didn't think about that, to be honest with you. Yes, one, if you know it, you bring it, if you know
I'll talk and report back.
have some conversation, that's all, because I just don't think we were expecting that. I thought about that.
For sure, okay. I fixed your, where the proposed change in that column.
Oh, yeah,
I
with
corrected
the,
that.
okay, with the J's, or the A's or H's or something, okay, very
Yes.
good. I guess we'll have to wait till 6. Oh, we don't, because we started at 5:30. That's right, sorry, okay, why don't we, sorry about
Whenever
that,
you're
guys, I was waiting to.
It's okay.
So, all right, I'll call the meeting to order at 5:55.
Sarah, is that on?
Yep.
Awesome, thank you. So, tonight, we are going to discuss the CIP, recreation, and writing my notes on whatever. these
Fire.
are. Fire, salary.
And transfer station
Transfer station.
attendance. There was, when the
Oh,
board,
oh,
at the
oh.
last workshop, there was confusion about how it was comprised and, you know,
So you got an update on that?
yes, I do.
Okay, all right, so we'll do that then. Okay, so which one do we want to do first? You want to do CIP?
Sure.
It's in your hand?
Yeah, let's talk about CIP. So has this been changed, Caroline?
That has not been
Not
changed
been
at all,
changed.
that is the committee's recommendation.
Okay. So I'll just go through it as we recommended, but I do think there are some changes that we could make. So for 2020, 14,000 for the town hall air conditioner compressors. We're not spending any money next year. We're just putting money away. So Jessica, just for your knowledge, the CIP, this worksheet is both a savings account and spending account. It's kind of a complicated, it's not that complicated, but, so, like next year, we're just putting money into the CIP for these things, and then the things that are shaded are areas where we'll be both saving and expending.
Well, that's the year of
That's
purchase,
the year of
which may or may not be a year that we're also putting money for that.
Right. So 14,000 for air conditioners, for the next, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years until 2024. That will be fully funded.
I don't see that, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Where do you see it?
Line.
Other side.
Oh, okay, now I see it, okay.
Why
Here
is
we are.
yours, oh, yours is longer. It's
Okay.
good. Yep, so that's line 3.
Okay, got it.
So I think there's a discussion to be had about line 4, which used to be the town hall facility, town hall / police station line. So we would continue setting aside 35,000 next year. The change that the committee agreed on, so I don't remember, the old target was like 1.4 million, or somewhere in that area. And what we talked about was, we're never gonna save 1.4 million at 35,000 a year. So we're almost surely going to bond that, but we should be earmarking some sort of money for whether we're in this building or a down payment on a new building. So that's why that line was adjusted, the target was adjusted to 460.
By the way,
So at 10 years, that would be fully funded at 460, if we follow this plan. Police vehicle replacement, 35,000, which is, for a lease, another lease. Is that, it's one brand new lease vehicle, but fully equipped.
Next year, and then, you know, possibly the year after. Yes, so, you know.
2 more years? Because we got one this year. I thought it
Right.
was this year and next year. And then 21, we're putting some money aside, but not buying one.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. But what I meant, I'm sorry, is possibly leasing the following one, whether or not to continue with leasing programs versus going back to purchasing them
Gotcha.
outright.
Okay,
Right.
So this reflects continuing to lease.
okay.
Digital fingerprint system, setting aside 10,000 with a target date of 2021. So that would be fully funded, by the time we're ready to expend. The message board is back on here.
He brought it up again, but it was less of a, it wasn't the
Okay, so that's
primary
5 years ago.
priority, yeah.
Okay, that, I remember now. So starting to set aside money for a message board, I'm sure by then we won't have matching funds, but, the extraction equipment was a surprise, so fire department line number, priority 1. So we shifted some other money around to be able to expend 30,000 next year for this because it's really a need. And we hadn't had time to save for that, but it's become an emerging need there. The forestry vehicle, setting down 9,200, which would fully fund the purchase next year for 55,000. And then air pack filling stations, we moved out another year at the fire department's request. So we'd set aside, this doesn't make sense. Because we
Right,
said,
because it looks like a 2023 purchase year, they don't agree.
yeah, they don't agree, so we need, but we're not doing anything with it next year. We just need to fix the spreadsheet. That's, so, yeah, 10,000, so line number 10, we would set aside 10,000 to replace, the 2018, so the fire truck we just bought, last year, start saving again to replace that. Since that will be several $100,000. And that doesn't have a target year until 2035, so time is on our side there. On the next page, this is also an opportunity for discussion. The highway department, articulating loader. The committee we did recommend buying this piece of equipment next year. So setting aside 35, 695 and expending 85, 695. I think that could probably be pushed out another year to give us time to build that fund up a little more. And then setting aside money for a mini excavator and a roof replacement at the highway department, 16,000, 12,000. So that's a total of 186,895. But then a couple of other things came on the radar. The generator for town hall, is that on?
It's in the second one under the first section. And it's listed as $65,000, but it doesn't seem as though it'll cost nearly that.
That's on this sheet?
It's not on that sheet, it's on the CIP sheet, it's the second listed item on the
Number
CIP
2.
sheet.
Oh, okay. I see, okay. So we don't think that's the right price tag, but
It's
given,
less, right?
I would suggest 30.
Yeah.
okay. I would suggest moving that up,
Mhm.
because of the emerging issue we have had with it.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
On number 1 priority, town hall boiler, it's all zeroed across.
Well, right, but, so, we haven't taken the money out of the CIP fund, actually, so this is a
So that
worksheet.
what makes it go zero, is when you.
So it's not to be voted on, because it's already been voted on. If you
Got it.
don't do it in 2020,
Mhm.
then it's gonna go back on the CIP, or I would suggest you put it back on the CIP for continued evaluation thereafter. But it's not listed at all, because in theory, it may, that's why there's a question mark in the purchase target here, because
Mhm.
it's been authorized.
Right, through a warrant.
Correct,
So a warrant, and we can lapse it another year.
right.
So, but the money doesn't show in there until you spend it, it just shows until you've been authorized to buy it through a warrant. And then
Well,
it goes
it's-
zero
This
afterwards.
can work however you want it to
Okay.
work, but that's what it's currently reflecting, is that it's zeroed out because it's been authorized, so it's kind of,
Yeah,
it's now in your, not exactly in your operating budget, but it's not really a planning tool anymore,
Yeah.
because it's already been authorized.
got it, okay, thank you.
Yep. So, yeah, in my mind, so adding another, like, if we put a generator on the warrant and added 30,000, and then move the articulating loader out a year, that makes sense to me. In an effort to keep this bottom number somewhat stable.
Mhm. I think I'm in agreement with that as well. I think that the generator is definitely needed. If it goes, we're in trouble, and we have to get it regardless. Where I'm not really convinced 100% that the articulating loader is something that we don't already have something in-house that we can do the job. Maybe it's easier, maybe it's does other things, but I think before we make that purchase, I know that we have another means of doing it another way.
Right, it's
Where a
getting
generator,
done.
we don't.
Right, yep, no,
So-
totally.
That's my feeling, so I would support that suggestion.
How functionally, how does this work? Because there must be some sort of investment happening, right?
That's the very bottom line of the whole thing. That's how much money you're allocating per year, the very bottom row.
So it'd
Yes,
be
that's how much
186.
per year you're putting into this fund.
I mean, is the fund invested anywhere, like bonds or anything?
I can't really speak to that, it's under the purview of the trustees of the trust funds, but it can't be managed. It does have different rules about it, so that you can't have it just in a checking account.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that you can put it in bonds. There are different rules about what you can do with it that is different from the operating budget and what falls under the
Right.
purview of the select board. So I can't speak further to how it's held.
So we technically write a check and give it to the trustees of the trust fund for them to do whatever they do with it and invest it. It
Yes.
doesn't stay here with us.
Correct.
It goes to them. They're
Yes.
But considering that all the in CIP reserve funds are nice round dollars, they probably don't invest it anywhere. Unless
I
this
think
is,
they do
unless
make
this
some
is just
interest in-
reflecting what we've actually put in cash.
Yes.
So, sort of, the chart shows what we're gonna put away every year. But then way over on the right-hand column, there's the what's in CIP already, and those are also round numbers, more or less. But separately, we do have the balances of the trust funds, and every year there's $412.39 of interest or something like that that needs to get dispersed somehow into this fund. So you kind of have two projects before you tonight with regard to CIP. What are you gonna what are you gonna put on the warrant? What are you gonna propose to purchase? How much money from CIP are you gonna propose to support that purchase with? And then how much money are you gonna propose to put into the CIP fund? Which may or may not reflect revising the whole 10-year plan. You know, ultimately, you ought to revise the whole 10-year plan so that the board is in agreement that at this point in time, not only are these the things we're purchasing this year, but also this is how much money we're putting away for these specific things this year, and what the balances are for these things, understanding full well that next year, this or a different board may come to a completely different determination.
Or other things will pop up.
Right, true, always something comes up
Right.
that's new. Okay. So, do we wanna do a motion about deferring the, articulator, what is it called?
Articulating.
Voter, at least for another year, and putting the funds that were allocated for that purchase to the generator? That won't give us enough, right? No.
Well, according to the CIP, you've got 35, you're theoretically putting onto the,
Well, they're saying it's
35,695.
$695
Right.
is what they were
That-
putting in, but there's 50 already in the fund, is what
Right, and that
that's
was in
saying.
order to fund the entire purchase of
Mhm,
it. So
mhm.
you could put 30 toward the generator and then $695 still on this articulating loader.
That's true,
Yeah.
okay. So, but the generator was, oh, you're saying it's not gonna be 65, it's gonna be more like
It's
30
gonna be more
now?
like 30.
Okay.
I would suggest a 30. We only have one quote for it.
Yeah.
The chief is still working on getting other quotes.
Okay,
So, but 30 would be sufficient.
okay. All right, that would, I would make a motion that that's what we do, is to put 30 towards the generator and remove it from the articulating loader and defer that for a year.
So you're gonna take 30 from the articulating loader
Mm-hmm.
and add it to the,
Make it to the generator.
does that leave any?
$695,
Five,
$5,695.
695.
oh, $5,695.
Five.
$5,695 in the loader still.
Yep.
But it will revise all the other numbers, it will revise the purchasing year.
Yep.
Yeah.
To 2021. So
So is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay,
So then should we put 30 into 2021
Exactly.
30,
And you're revising it.
of the articulating loader
2021 for that.
to make up for the,
yeah, we can, I suppose, can we do that on,
Yeah.
yeah, we can, and they can always change it.
Again,
Yeah.
yeah, this is it's a
Okay,
plan.
that's, yeah, it's a planning document, so yeah, we would put the 30 in 2021 that, we took out
All right, so.
for
if
the
I-
articulating loader.
And you're putting 695 in this year, is that right?
We're leaving the 695,
Okay.
5695
Oh, right.
this
yeah.
year. We're taking the 30 from this year and putting it into the
And then
generator.
you're putting 30
And then
into
we're
next year.
authorizing, or
Yep.
recommending to put 30 in 2021 that we took
Got it.
this year.
Okay, thank you.
Which,
So I seconded that.
Okay,
for, and what year, I'm sorry, what year were you putting it back?
2021.
21, okay.
All right, any discussion? No?
No.
All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye, okay. that one's done. What does everyone else think about any of the other items for purchase? Was really the most important is what, so the police vehicle is not, they're recommending another purchase for the police vehicle. And then the forestry,
Yeah, so the current truck is a 2003 that has needed all sorts of repairs. Mark reported that there's rust. So it's at the end of its
it's an old pickup though.
It's an old
Yeah.
pickup truck. It
Yeah.
looks like it's in good shape, but it only has like 50,000 miles, but
Wow.
it's,
Yeah,
What kind of truck is it?
it's a pickup truck.
you interested?
Well, no, what kind of pickup truck?
It's like a
It's a regular
GMC.
pickup truck,
It's
yeah.
a
Oh,
regular-
okay, I'm
Yeah.
wondering what's failed after 50,000 miles.
Well,
The
because they don't
age.
put a lot of miles on their vehicles,
Yeah.
they just use it a lot,
Oh,
but they don't go far.
It goes and
No,
Yeah,
it
that's,
sits
that's,
somewhere.
every fire truck will have low miles, you'll just say.
That's true of all the municipal vehicles,
Yeah.
but it's worse with the fire,
Fire.
that they can be at a scene for hours and it just runs and
Cause
runs.
it runs, but it
Oh,
doesn't
interesting.
go anywhere, you know,
Mm.
so, so you'll notice in years to come that their miles are low, even though they're asking for something new. Do you know how many of the, excavation pieces of equipment that
It's three.
contains? Three of them.
3. Yeah.
That's 3 pieces, or is it 3 for 3 different trucks?
It's 3 things, 3 different functional things.
One each of 3 different
One
items.
each
One
of the,
each of 3
like,
different.
Are these like jaws of
Pliers.
life?
So
Yes.
one does one job, one does another job, and
Yep.
another does, but it could be put into one in each truck, or it could be put in all one truck.
From what I recall, they would all go in,
I believe he plans to have them all in one vehicle,
One
but they're not
vehicle.
attached to each other the way they are now.
Now,
The hydraulic
right.
ones they have now are
Yeah.
different attachments for one
right, these
piece
are
of
battery
equipment.
operated.
And these are
Yeah.
battery separate
Yeah.
different pieces of equipment. So
Okay.
you could separate them.
But then you'll always have to take
Have-
both vehicles
right.
with you, not
So-
knowing what you have to do.
But that's not different than what we have now. There's one.
There's
one
one, but they
chargeable.
would take that vehicle, but if you separated the 3 pieces
Oh,
on the
right.
different
No,
trucks, you'd
no.
have to take
Yeah.
3 trucks to take, because you don't know what you have. That
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
So, just as some additional background, they discovered, so they went to go service this Jaws of Life thing and discovered it was the second oldest
Mhm.
piece of equipment in the state of New Hampshire. The first oldest is a backup to a backup in the city of Nashua.
Okay.
So it's 30
Very
years old,
old.
and it could
It's very
fail
old.
sort of at any time.
Mhm.
Actually, Janko bought that for them years and years
Right.
and years ago, yeah. So, but yeah, that, it's served its time.
Yep.
So, but he says that those are his 2 priorities.
Yep, the air packs were number 1,
Mhm.
but that got moved out.
Can you take stuff from the reserve fund from another line and move it to?
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
I mean, eventually,
You're gonna
you
have to
gotta
pay for it.
right?
Yeah, you'd have to put it
Yeah,
back.
the moral of this story is that everything is underfunded.
Yeah.
And we're still learning about things that need to be funded. And so you'll notice that on the bottom right-hand side of the whole sheet, that you've got $3.5 million worth of equipment on this sheet.
Mhm.
And we're proposing approximately $200,000 a year for a, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So there's no way these things are fully funded.
Mhm.
It goes up incrementally in an effort to get closer, but there's always gonna be a cash outlay at some
Mhm.
point, whether it be now or later.
Right.
Did Mark say whether or not he thought there might be some opportunity for grants?
I know that came up.
We certainly should bring that up to
Yeah.
him, to see if he can, I don't know if they still do the FEMA grant that we got the fire truck through.
Right.
But we should at least try.
Yep.
Grants have
You know.
tried,
Yeah, they
Are
probably
you talking
have.
about Jaws of Life? What do those things even look like? They pop open windows or something?
They
Yeah.
pop open
They
doors.
cut
Yeah,
things
one
open,
is
they
like-
cut.
they
a
mostly
spreader.
metal.
Like
No.
AAA?
Well, a little more depth.
You're not gonna use the
That'll be
You don't wanna wait for AAA when you're having a car
No, they put
accident.
the balloon in it, they pump up the balloon, alright.
No, this is a big vice that opens it up. But anyway, we should at least encourage him to try to see if
Yeah.
there's any kind of grants and stuff if this goes
I've made
forward.
it up to ask.
Thank you. But, okay, any other questions on purchases?
Seabrook rents theirs out, apparently, Seabrook Fire Department.
They rent their days of life out?
They charge other towns to use it,
How does that work?
I don't know.
How do you know you're gonna?
fees,
Well,
$500 per
How do you
individual.
know?
Well, they probably call
They
you,
call them up,
you
say,
go
meet
and
us
use
there.
it, and then they charge you, they send you a bill.
Oh,
The chief got an idea, he was attending a conference in Connecticut, apparently he heard of it there.
I wonder how that works with mutual aid.
Well, I was gonna say, we have mutual aid for that very purpose. They
Exactly.
bring their trucks that we don't have and, you know,
We
we
bring
bring
our
our
stuff
stuff
that they
that we
don't,
have, so,
yeah.
you know, that, I think the agreement that we have as a mutual aid works really nice. I would not like to start charging people to,
Just stay in
You
your
know.
car for
yeah.
a couple of hours.
You know, it's like, yeah, I wouldn't wanna go down that road, or other departments, but, anyway, so that, yeah, I think those two changes, I feel good about it. How about you guys?
Yeah, this made sense to me. It keeps the 2020 overall number to, I think we allocated roughly that, I think it was 179 last year, or something like that.
Okay. So, are we okay with funding everything that we're funding as well as on top of what we're buying?
Yeah.
Okay. Jessica?
Yeah,
Okay.
just like wondering why, like in the highway department, their number, I imagine these are priorities they're sorted by.
That's the
Yes.
So like
priorities.
third priority, there's no money set aside for 190,000, but we're putting in 12,000 for a $45,000 roof.
Mm-hmm.
That seems backwards to me.
So,
Yeah,
by
that's
all
the
means,
same
if you
thing.
wanna work this spreadsheet and make a suggestion to the board about what you think is a reasonable way to rework this, do that, because there's, an infinite number of ways
Yeah,
to approach this.
Mm-hmm.
Because
But-
the roof is sooner.
Right,
It's
Little
not,
bit sooner, yeah.
yeah, I mean, the priorities, I don't think a huge amount of thought has gone into sorting them, except when it's
Right.
becoming closer to the purchase year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
right.
Because I agree, like, something that's 5 years out should be a higher priority, maybe?
Yeah, some things seem a little off, but
Mhm.
you're right. It doesn't seem like, it's just 2013, I imagine, is saying that it's a 2013 dump truck. Isn't there's a new truck coming, right? Is that was for our
Hopefully.
highway department, right?
Yeah.
The highway.
Highway.
Okay, that was my only thought, but.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but that can be a work in progress too, if it
Yeah,
gets
so-
adjusted. Really, it's more about what we want to go forward for this year and the amount of money going in.
Sure.
And all of this can change every single year depending on their need and something that's happened with a piece of equipment that may have to be
Yeah,
replaced that was out for 20 years or 10 years or something, may for some reason have to be replaced early.
Every year, there are surprises, and every year, the department
Yeah.
heads come with priorities that we weren't even necessarily on our list,
Yeah.
even the year
Yeah.
before, because this is it's still a relatively new
Mm-hmm,
planning tool.
mm-hmm.
So we know that we're not funding everything fully, and also, we know that it doesn't contain everything, even though we kind of hope it does, but
We keep finding.
we keep finding more things.
But we just make a good effort to put money aside.
Yep.
Which is the important part, and that we can
Mhm.
start planning, and you can just rob from one to another if you need to, and that's, you just gotta make the priority what it is that year, so.
Yeah.
I would like to recap for you what
Sure.
you've chosen for
Okay.
this, for CIP items. We've got $35,000 for police cruisers, that's for, a new one plus the existing, cruiser lease. The, generator for $30,000. The fire extraction equipment for 30. the fire forestry for 55. And then, I'm putting these into the bottom of your operating budget, the capital projects. I also wanted to remind the board of other warrant articles that are not on the CIP, like the land appraisal is in here, which only for, land trust capital reserve fund in case somebody wants to put something in, conservation, but also, I put in here as a placeholder for discussion, $30,000 for having this building assessed. There's a company who is working on getting me a quote, and that's what it cost the school years ago. It's a bigger building, but that was years ago, so I don't know how good that figure is or isn't, but it's just a discussion point.
$30,000 just to have the building assessed?
To-
That's crazy. Am I
Well, it's
missing
a very detailed assessment of.
Oh, okay.
Like, is it
So more
structurally
details than my
sound, what does it
house.
really need?
Yeah.
Does-
Okay.
Going
Yeah.
in and see if there's asbestos here, what are your hazards, what are your
Holy cow.
needs to be
Yes.
repaired to make
I would have
it.
bet like $1,000.
Oh, good enough.
No, you need engineers to come in
Yeah.
and
Okay.
really know
Got it.
what they're looking at.
The ceilings and the cellar and the everything, because if we're going to stay here,
Right.
we're gonna have to put some money into it.
Well, and we
For
need
top
help
and
with a
bottom.
capital improvement plan just for this building, like what is the maintenance schedule for fixing the boiler or the ACs, and when should they get replaced? And, electrical, is it up to code even? We have no idea what's
Right.
behind these walls.
Right, right. Does she have a copy of the Banwell one?
It's on the drive, but I'll share it
What
with
is it?
you.
It's the assessment that was done years ago. Well,
It was 2015,
Oh,
it was
building.
an assessment of this building, but really toward renovating it and moving walls around. It was about, if we were to stay here, how can we optimize this space? So it had a dollar figure attached, but it's different from saying, what if we stayed here and we just made do with what we have and just bring everything up to code and pick away at things and not necessarily move walls?
but it might be good for you to just
I think you'd
peek at
find
it
it
and read
informative.
it, so so you get an idea what we're talking about.
If you go to the drive and search Banwell, Banwell, you'll find it.
Okay.
Yeah. Happy reading. Okay, so, do we need to make a motion?
So,
Yes.
that for reference is $185,000 worth of expenditures, not counting any offset income from the CIP fund, that, including the $30,000 assessment, as opposed,
Including it?
that includes the $30,000, which is down from 294 from the previous year. Though, again, it doesn't have its offsetting revenue from the fund, so it's not, what the tax impact is not really, I'd have to look, given what you said about how you wanna fund things, what is going to be the tax outlay for each of those things, yeah.
Okay. All right, so does everyone understand that part of it? Okay.
Yes.
So are we in agreement we are in agreement on the, what we're gonna purchase through it this year?
Yep.
And how much we're gonna fund for it? All right, so do we wanna, any more changes that you guys wanna talk about, or do you wanna go forward with what we have?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, all right, so do you guys wanna make a motion?
So I'll move that we allocate $186,895 for CIP projects.
Can you say that?
You're picking the $2020 amount.
220,000.
To put into the fund.
186,
Put into the fund, but our
895.
expenditure's gonna be 185.
Yes,
Which includes the assessment,
Yeah, there.
Okay.
yes.
okay.
So
What's
it's a
that?
bit of a wash, you're just putting, you're paying, it's, it depends on how you think of it, essentially you're paying cash for everything, except you're putting not quite $2,000 away.
Okay, all right,
That's one way to think of it, it's
Yes.
not,
all right,
Yeah, we're not growing the fund at
right,
all. with
right,
that. I mean,
this year, right,
This year.
yeah,
I mean, we certainly could, but that's more,
money.
More.
For sure, all right. You want to second that?
Seconded.
Okay, so, any further discussion on that? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
so CIP is going forward, alright? So, what is my next one? Recreation? We wanna talk about recreation? We can do that, alright? So we met last, was that last night?
Tuesday night.
Tuesday night. And kind of had a discussion about what we can and possibly change and what was good and what was, could be better on, the program. What are your guys' feelings about the recreation?
Given, I know this is a complicated one, but given what we've heard and the value that it's providing to not only town residents, but the area, I think we should keep at least Camp Raleigh. Maybe pare it down, like how it gets executed, I'm not in touch with. I just am not, you are much more, you're much closer to it than I am, but I wouldn't wanna see it go away completely.
Yeah.
Teen, I don't know,
I think it was a consensus at our meeting that night that we could disband teen. But what it also was brought up about doing that is taking the money that was allocated to teen and hiring a part-time rec director who could take on some of the duties. Camp Raleigh would report to the rec director would be doing summer rec, winter rec. We'd have to talk more about how many hours and those kind of things, but it would also be taking some of the work off of this office. It would be going through the policies, it would be going through what is required through Primex and all of our other concerns that we have about procedures and policies and manuals and stuff. So I think that's a good idea that we try to think about hiring a rec director, and being the rec director can also be the rec director for, or maybe not the overseer, maybe having maybe 2 positions under them that is really dedicated to Raleigh. But I think team just didn't have the numbers, in my opinion, to make it, there's a lot of money going out. I know they brought a lot of money in, but it's a lot of energy to get it going. And that was one of our weaknesses this year, was how much work it took to organize the trips, because teen camp never was at location. They were always on a trip.
right,
So it was busing and it was
Tickets.
buying tickets and doing, it was just a lot of work for the amount of children that participated in it, in my opinion. I do believe Raleigh is worth saving, or at least trying another year to see what we can do. One of the things that I brought up at our meeting is that if Rollinsford taxpayers are gonna contribute dollars to the program, we should restrict it to Rollinsford students only. That was one of my suggestions, because we have outside cities and towns who participate in it as
Or
well.
raise,
a different rate for,
they already can pay higher rates.
They do pay higher rates. The problem is that you not necessarily know a lot about what's coming to you. And I think that was some of our problems this year. We don't have the staff to handle certain situations or certain conditions. And so that is concerning to me as well. So I think if you limit it to the children who are in the grade school, you kind of know what you have, you know, as in certain conditions that you would have to make sure we can handle. Now, that takes away the revenue, that is, but it also would reduce your staff.
How many out of town kids were there?
Well, Celia did this thing, I printed it out, however,
Oh,
If
I'm
I
looking literally right at
understand-
it, yeah.
61 campers were Rollinsford residents. That was 10 was Raleigh, no, 10 was teen and 51 was Raleigh. But you never told us how many were out of town.
She did follow up with that.
Okay,
There are 48 out-of-town residents, 8 of them are teen camp. and that, 40 was Camp Raleigh. But not only does looking at the individual numbers, Camp Raleigh in town does not utilize the before and after care nearly as much as the out-of-towners do, and that is a big moneymaker for the camp.
And a big cost. You forget about that part, though. It costs you to pay your staff to come in and
Well,
run the
I
program.
think the point though is that we don't know, we haven't had time to run numbers of, non-residents and what they use, the benefit versus the cost reduction,
Mhm.
we can only speak about it anecdotally at this point because
True.
we haven't,
But people are forgetting, if you have less students, you have less staff, which costs you less. And if we can
Well,
use one
right.
bus versus 2 buses, it costs you less. We don't know what those numbers are yet, but
well, the question is, are you losing $5,000 to save $2,000? Or
I
are
don't
you
know if you'll
losing
ever-
$2,000 to save $4,000? We don't know.
because it's
What the
not
net impact.
consistent of families every single year going into the
Then
program.
it could change anyway.
It could change anyway. So it all depends who comes and who doesn't. It was just, my only concern was that if we limit it to just Rollinsford students, we kind of know what we're gonna have and who we're gonna have. That was where my thought was. But, I mean, if it's about revenue and funding the thing, I mean, there just comes some risk with that, that's all.
I think I'm fine either way. So you reach a critical mass. So if you have 10 kids, you need one person. If you have 12, you need two.
Mhm.
So there's gonna be a point where 50 kids versus 70 kids, you have the same staff, right?
Mhm. But if the 20 work them out and they have some disabilities that we are not capable of handling, that's my concern. Because we
But that could come through the door at any, there could be
Could.
residents, right? I mean,
Absolutely, absolutely. It's just one of those things that,
Yeah,
that we experienced this year. But, if you wanna keep it open to, I'm okay with that. I do believe that we should continue with Raleigh.
so one question on the rec director. So we currently pay someone in the summer to be the rec director?
We have a rec director for teen, and we have one for Raleigh.
Okay.
So they don't work, one is not the supervisor of the other, they're two
They're
leaders of
independent.
their two groups. So we wouldn't hire a rec director for teen because it isn't
Okay,
going
so
to
we
be
save
somebody. However,
that
if
money.
we hired a rec director, and possibly that person could be it, or anybody else who applies, whatever. But it would give us an opportunity to have rec for the whole year.
Mhm.
For a certain amount of, it would certainly be really part-time. I'm not looking for, a lot of hours throughout the year. There's gonna be more.
13,000 could get you 12 hours a year at $20 an hour.
Mhm.
So that's, you could load it obviously heavily in the summer, but
Mhm.
that's not nothing.
Yeah. But that's what I'm thinking, is if we can at least start it, to have a lead person who is organizing events. Like they were talking about the basketball program, Kelly Anderson, is the one who really takes care of it, and she has to hire the refs, she has to, pick the
Do all the
locations, what is it?
Do all the scheduling with all the other
That's
towns
something
and-
that the rec director could assist,
Mhm.
instead of a volunteer doing it.
Um,
One person dealing with our office instead of several people dealing with our office. I
Yeah.
think that we need to simplify the office.
It makes sense to me, so, but that money would no longer be revenue neutral.
No,
No,
it wouldn't.
so-
You're right, it wouldn't.
Well,
Go ahead.
so two things. You can decide that.
Right.
We haven't talked about revenue
Seven.
yet, so you can decide what the rates will be, but you don't know how many kids, so you never really know, because you don't know how many kids, whether or not you're gonna hit the mark or not, but you
Right.
get to decide whether or not the rec director is going to be covered by the cost of camp or not.
Yeah.
Or how much are you gonna subsidize, you
Yeah.
all get to decide that. But just keep in mind that you don't have a budget until the third
Right.
week in March. So
Yep.
So these funds, if you keep, they're not helping us between now and then,
True.
unless you're gonna
Exactly.
just take a risk on it and do it anyway.
No, we would not, especially with
I
the,
agree
with
that,
rec in particular, I wouldn't think we would do anything until after March. But, you know, I think that, you know, I am also saying that we should have our tuition contain a portion of the, at least the rec director's, salary, to help cover it. You wanna make it affordable,
yeah.
but we, you know, the reason why a lot of the out of town people are coming is we're so affordable.
Right, right.
I say
And-
jack up the out-of-town rates,
What's that?
jack up the out-of-town rates.
Well, they are up already,
Are they?
but, well,
What
they do,
is-
they have more, out of towners
They're a
make
little
more,
higher,
right?
right?
Yeah,
In both camps, they're higher, and it's proposed that they go up again.
Yeah.
And they're going up for the out-of-towners in Camp Raleigh more than they will go up for the residents. It's like $5 a week, and for the residents, and it's like $10 to $20 for the non-residents per week. And they pay $100 per,
Registration.
registration more than Camp Raleigh does. So for the whole, even more than that, because for a resident, whole summer is $350. For a non-resident, at the 2019 rate is $470 for your first child. And then Camp Raleigh siblings get discounts down from there. And then, so any group of siblings get discounts, but they're proportional to your rate. So like, you take 10% off, I think.
but is this something that we can also monitor and control too, and
Yeah.
increase it, because that is extremely
I mean,
cheap.
what's a week of daycare cost? Like,
$100 a child,
yeah,
you know, so it, you know, a week,
yeah.
if not more, I don't know, it's been a long time since I've had daycare, so I
Yeah.
mean,
I've heard people say that it can cost 40,000 a year.
yeah, oh yeah, easily. So that's why they're choosing to do camp
Who wouldn't?
versus daycare,
It's not a
right, right.
complicated
So I'm saying
equation.
there is some flexibility of our pricing as to, that was their recommendation, but we can
Okay.
modify that.
So would we move forward with this budget as proposed, or do you think it needs?
I think you need to
Work.
clarify that, I think the budget proposed is doable, I just think that you need to make sure that we vote to, if we're going to no longer support teen camp and support it as a rec director of some, whatever that money will afford.
So
Because
just
it's in here, it's separate, right? Oh, no, see, teen, oh, no, yes,
teams
yes it is, yeah.
separate. So you have currently a summer, a camp early rec director, a teen camp director. So we're
And then there's
combining,
counselors in the summer camp too, because for every 10 children, what is the number?
Every 6 for grades 1 through 3
Is it one counselor?
is one counselor.
Okay.
Every 4 or 5 is 1 to 8, and I believe it's 1 to 8 for, or 1 to 9 for the 6th through 8th graders, and then the teen camp is 1 to 15.
Okay, but we're not doing teen, so.
yeah,
So, you know, you're still gonna have to do your counselors as
Yep.
well as your directors,
right.
but one director
One
and then your
director.
rec director being
So my
above
point
all.
is that money plus 13,000, like, I don't think we need to necessarily decide it tonight, but it's more than 13,000 for a rec director, right? Let's say we pay them,
Well, I think the point is, we don't really know.
We don't
We know that what we have spent on a rec director for the summer,
Mhm.
but then what is an adequate amount of time outside of
Yeah.
summer
Mhm.
for
I think,
whatever you're
yeah,
gonna
we still need to
delegate for them to
figure
do?
that out. And I'm fine with allocating, we can wait for Jessica, obviously. I don't think we need to spend every dime.
Mhm.
We need to figure out what amount of time is.
You
And
need
maybe
to
the first
prefer
year,
eight.
it is the whole amount,
Mhm.
and then it's up and running, and
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah, but I think with the the board would have a lot of input on what that position's going to do and how many hours and what the cost is, more so over the rec
Mhm.
committee. We need to have that more, because we also need to make sure that Caroline's office is
It's
gonna know
getting
what's gonna happen and
relief
it's gonna
from-
help them as well, so. But I would say we start with that, see how it goes, see if we get anything. And then, again, going forward for the next year, if it's, works,
Yeah,
we can improve and go even higher, and if it doesn't, we can go backwards and just keep Raleigh and what we had before.
right,
So, but I'd like to at least try it and see how that works.
okay, I'm on board with that.
Okay, so we're on board that we recommend the whole rec department's budget, not doing teen,
Mhm.
and replace that with a rec director, for whatever we can get on that.
Right,
Then that will oversee the camp director, we'll call it, instead of a rec director, we'll call it camp director for Raleigh,
Mhm.
who would report to the rec director, or be under the umbrella of it. They'll be part of it, but they,
so there's a rec director that isn't like overseeing Camp Raleigh?
I think that rec director is gonna oversee
okay.
camp Raleigh. That camp director will report to the rec director, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
And the committee.
So right now we have like an assistant director or something?
We have a director, and we have an assistant for
Okay.
Raleigh, and we have a director and team.
Okay,
And we have counselors underneath them as well. But I think, seeing, having the rec director be the go-to person.
not to analyze this thing to death, but where would we put this person?
A lot of it can be done in their own home.
Okay.
I mean, I don't see, what do you
Like,
think?
I think there, you know, there are associated files. It's perhaps part of, I agree with you that a lot of it can be done from home
Mhm.
and just attending meetings, and when there's actual camp, then it's off-site anyway.
Mhm.
I think it's just about making occasional space here for occasional things, but I don't, I guess that's a discussion point.
Is there a computer, is there?
There is not currently a computer.
Mhm.
The desks left the board's office
Oh.
today, so
Oh, I didn't even look in there.
so have a look.
Okay.
Furniture's been rearranged a
Mhm.
bit. We still don't have the right piece of furniture for the board, but we can make that kind of a place where different people who are here for short periods of
Mhm.
time for various reasons can come and
Mhm.
have a place to work.
Mhm. Or possibly even the room next door, right?
That's really,
Just for a place to work.
well, it's not heated, so there's
Okay.
that about it.
Okay.
But the bigger issue, or at least as much of an issue, is the filing problem. There's no space in there right now. Right now, it may be different after we do shredding. We're scheduled to, there's a bunch of boxes in there that are gonna get shredded. It'll help clean things out, but
Mhm.
all the planning and zoning files are all over the place. So for as long as they're all over the place, there's kind of no way to make that a
Viable?
workspace for somebody.
I mean, we could.
We can definitely figure this out.
Figure it out, you know,
I-
we could have a little small
Yeah,
two-drawer
we
file
can
cabinet
work
in here that's
something out,
locked. I
yeah.
mean, I think we could work it out. I don't
Yep.
think they need any more than a two-drawer file
You know,
cabinet.
well, and we've got some time to
Yeah.
talk about it.
But, I mean, those are all logistic things that we can work out and, I mean, this room isn't used a lot during the day.
No, and I
Yeah.
use it, like, we all use it sometimes for if you need to just spread things
Oh,
out.
of course,
and,
yeah,
you
but
know.
it wouldn't be anything that we might be able to
Yeah, I
utilize
think
in
we can
here.
work it out.
So, okay, so, do we wanna make a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that we fund the Parks and Recreation line at 63,000, I think that says 575.
Yeah.
Is that an eye check?
Second?
Yes, okay. All right, with the changes that we discussed,
With the
right?
changes we discussed.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Any further discussion on that?
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passed. All right. Transfer station attendance.
Okay, so, we had an interesting conversation, at our last budget workshop about how this line was budgeted, and the number didn't reflect what we thought he was trying to accomplish. So I spoke with him and I created a calculator, that you can see in the actual spreadsheet of this, but obviously not at what you're looking at. So I've got everybody in the spreadsheet who currently works there at their current hourly wage, and then, everybody earmarked for a 2% increase, because that's what everybody else is getting. You can discuss whether or not you wanna do a market increase for anyone or whatnot. I just wanna show, like, how this is calculated right now is based on everybody working what they currently earn for number of hours, with a 2% increase. It adds a fourth person. So Ed and I went to a Lamprey meeting today. We spent a lot of time in the car together. He's been working a couple of Saturdays at the transfer station, because somebody else hasn't been able to attend. And so during that time, he's been watching the flow and picturing and trying to come up with different ideas for how flow is gonna be managed when scales are purchased. And he doesn't see that being very, it's gonna have to be manned. So he's proposing the fourth person in there. I think it's going to be very challenging to have scales without a fourth person. Whether or not it's impossible, I don't know, but, so I have this calculated with a fourth person in there at the starting wage. Then there's also brush chipping.
So was that was line 204, right? Attendance? That's the one we're talking about, right?
I'm on the calculator, sorry.
Oh.
Yes, 204.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so I took out the brush chipping because he told me that the highway department handles that. So, 16 hours a week the transfer station is open. The primary person who does the baling, I bumped him up to 18 hours a week just because, for the baling, because the baling can't happen when the place is open. So there's that.
Is that a safety reason?
Yes,
Okay,
because the stuff can,
fly off.
yes.
Okay,
So you've got, so when I say a fourth person, it's really 3 quote-unquote full-time people plus 1 on just Saturdays.
not full-time, part-time.
Well,
But
like full-time, their hours,
Okay,
full-time,
okay,
full,
yeah,
you know,
okay.
3 days a week is what I
And
mean,
then
so.
additional one on Saturday.
So 3
Okay.
people, 3 days a week, 1 of which is working 2 extra hours to bail, plus a fourth person who's there for just Saturdays. That's what this line represents.
Okay,
If you give everybody a 2% increase,
Mhm.
that's gonna cost $38,534. Which is way more than what has been budgeted.
you have 39,907 on that.
Yes, I did, because that included brush chipping.
Oh,
So it was
am I looking
subsequent to that I
at-
spoke to him and brush chipping is handled by the highway.
Uh,
So you can change that number.
Yeah.
I
204.
thought, I thought we already had another unfilled
Yeah,
position.
Well, right, which means to me that we have not been budgeting this line appropriately, because if that's the case, he's been talking about this unfilled position that's been funded, but to my mind, it hasn't been funded. Maybe it was the intent that it be funded.
Yeah, maybe.
now what is that position that is unfilled right now, job responsibilities?
I can't respond to that.
Oh, okay.
It's staffing.
It's just
Well,
staffing.
is it
Like,
just additional, one guy
so-
here, 2 guys there, I mean?
Well, I think it's about when you go there and the person, there's nobody at the hopper because they're managing recycling,
Yep.
because somebody put something in the recycling that doesn't go, so they're
Yep.
sifting there, so that means they can't check recyclers
Always
without a
having
hopper.
Okay,
And
so
so
it's
you're always
having
having 2
okay,
people up there.
okay.
And there's always someone that has to pull the corks out of the wine bottles,
Right,
because people don't do that. I learned that recently.
there's always, people don't take their metal caps off of their
Mhm.
glass jars,
Mhm.
like things like that they're always
Yeah,
sorting through.
okay.
So it would have separate people at those different stations all the time.
So you're recommending an additional person on top of the other one that hasn't been filled because they can't get anybody to do it?
Well, they have had a couple of applicants, and
Okay.
he has another one now that he's looking into that I don't know where he'd find funding for, but he has an applicant he's considering. So the additional staff person would man the demo operation essentially, so not taking away from what the person down there currently does,
In the
make sure,
cardboard,
you know, like
Yeah,
making sure cardboard baler is not
Mhm.
overflowing, making sure that the paper is really just paper.
and collects the money for demo.
Right. So help with demo. Somebody's gotta transfer all the demo over the demo bucket every time because people are just gonna drop it right there where the scales are.
When we get the scales. is what
Right,
you're
so
saying.
somebody's gonna
Yeah.
have to transfer, so to my mind, that extra person is tied to scales and we're like hobbling by now and maybe it's okay, maybe it's not, but with scales,
So the extra person would be for scales, and the extra person we haven't been able to fill it with is still on top.
well, no, so this figure, 38.5,
Mhm.
is for 3 people every day except a 4th person on Saturday. So you're still kind of having just one person down below
most of the time.
most of the time. It's
So
just on
Saturday.
Saturdays when it's busy that there's a 4th person who can either float or really help with.
We already have
scales.
someone working just Saturdays.
Correct.
Okay.
Only because you're saying that the one that they wanna hire, we didn't fund, that's why you're saying that, right? Cause what he's saying is that he has an extra body that he hasn't been able to fill, but we really don't have the money in the budget for that extra body, right?
Given, right,
So
Well-
that's, so when you're gonna, so if you want 3 on top and 2 on the bottom, you're gonna have to budget for 2 people, because we don't have the one that we haven't been able to fill budgeted. Isn't that what you're saying?
I'm not sure I'm understanding you,
Okay,
like,
so there's,
so 3.
2 people
he
on
thinks
the
he's
top.
already, he thinks he's already budgeted for 3 people
but you're saying you don't think he is.
plus a 4th on Saturday. And I'm telling you that that's not what the numbers reflect according to my calculations.
Right,
Yet, he's only 57% spent for the year through September
That's
because, you know, so,
Because we had another person until,
right.
I know it was
You-
months
you
ago
had a-
now.
yeah, it was, probably about 3 months ago he left or something, right?
What's,
So-
where in the spreadsheet is the calculation?
It's in the details line.
Details, thank you.
So, the proposed 39,907,
You can reduce to 38,534 because the number you just said includes brush chipping or burning really, which you, the attendants don't do, the highway department does
Okay.
it separately.
It doesn't include a market adjustment for this one person.
Correct.
Okay.
but I didn't know we were doing that.
So right
Well-
now.
Well, right, that's just what the
Oh.
calculator's
Oh,
doing, you
oh,
can
okay.
do whatever you want, but that's what the
So,
calculator's doing.
so we'll go with the 39,907. That is how many employees? 4 employees?
3 every day, but a 4th just on Saturdays.
Okay, but now you want 4 every day.
No. This number, this 38,534 is for 3 people every day, but a 4th on Saturday.
So
That's
you're
what
not,
it's-
so you don't have a scale person then?
Scale person on Saturday.
Saturday only on scale?
So this is
Oh, all right, hold on a
It's-
second, I'm sorry, I have a miscalculation.
one person 18 hours a week, one person 16 hours a week, one
No, I
person
did
6 hours a week.
I did a thing, okay, new number, 32,700.
Okay.
He was
So-
calculated as full-time and not just on Saturdays. So the number, all right, so 32,700 is what he's requesting. It's 3 people every day, but a 4th person on Saturdays.
Okay.
3 people every day, so 2 up top, 1 down below?
Will work on most days. It's
Yeah.
Saturdays when it's more of a problem.
Right, so this is no different than what we have now.
Correct, except that it allows for a 2% increase, so why is it such a different?
But where is the scale person?
Well, there isn't really a scale person, it's just that you absolutely need to hire, Ed would say you absolutely need to hire this
2 more
third
people.
person. Well, that's not, no, he's saying just one more person. You've got the Saturday only person.
Yep.
So one more person
So the
for every
Saturday,
day.
so the Saturday person only works Saturday. So that
Correct.
means there's one up top and one on the bottom.
During the week, on
During the
Monday
week.
and Wednesday, yes, that's currently what the.
Is that what you want when you get the scale?
No, now it's gonna be 3 people on Mondays and Wednesdays and 4 people on Saturday. So let me show you the calculator. Maybe that will help you visualize this.
Am I
Yeah.
not getting it?
You're not getting it. It's, so right now we have 3 total. So
Right.
one Saturday only, 2 the
Right,
rest of the 10.
Which is,
And this will add another rest of the 10 person. So,
All the time,
All the
another
time.
all the time
well,
person.
we can use the word full-time, but we know it's not full-time.
it's
So-
gonna be, yeah, cause there's only one person who is a one day person.
Right.
And then, but right now, you only have, well, are we talking about bodies we physically have right now, or are we talking about allocated money for bodies that we want?
People can change, it's
No,
about.
no, no, I'm just saying, is the
We-
money in the budget, because he thinks he has one outstanding position,
Yep,
which would give
I
him
think he does.
3 during the week.
Yep.
And now he wants another one, which will give him 4.
He wants
Just
another 10 hours a month.
Would you like to look at this, and you can see how I did, here's, you know, we've got 18 hours a week for him, 2 hours for bailing outside
Yeah.
of open hours.
Okay,
So that equals that many hours a year.
yeah,
And then we've got this one for just as many hours as it is open,
yeah,
which is that many hours
Yeah.
a year. We've got he works on
only
Saturdays.
Saturdays, yeah,
So that's that many hours
Yeah.
a year. And then somebody else for all the time that it's
it's
open,
open, yeah,
for that same number of hours per year.
okay.
That's it.
And where is the scale guy?
Well, they're gonna
Sounds
make
like a
do with
monster.
that, that's.
Oh, okay, that's where was lost, because you're saying we need a scale guy, and then we need a replacement guy, because they want the replacement,
Oh,
whether
no,
or
no,
not
no,
we get a
I'm,
scale.
all right, I'm sorry.
That's where I got confused. You see where
Yeah.
yeah, okay,
I think
that's, yeah, because I thought we needed a full-time scale guy, but you probably can
Really
use
for
someone who's up there.
Saturdays, you know.
Yeah, I get it now, all right. Phew,
Okay, so the good news is that line only went up 3.8% to 32,700.
okay, 32,700 changes the 3907 to 32,700, right?
Yes, and so
Okay.
that's a change, that's an increase of $1,194 or 3.8%, but it does not consider the requested market increase, if you wanna talk about that.
This is just the 2%.
That is just 2% for all the existing people and starting rate for the new person.
What did you change on the tab to get it down to 32, on the detail lines?
I changed the third person on line 63
Yeah.
to 312 hours because he's 6 hours a
Oh,
week.
I see.
That's really
You got that
312.
static, man. 312, killing me. Cool.
Okay, so,
So we
what
can
is the
put-
hourly rate that this is budgeted at?
It'll be 11.44. The 2% increase will bring that position to 11.44. So,
For everyone?
no,
Just,
11.22 for the other 2
Okay.
already existing people plus $11 for the not yet hired person, that's the starting rate.
Okay,
so I think at our last meeting, we talked about adjusting most senior person to
Mhm.
something, $11.75 or $12. I don't remember. I thought I had it written down.
yeah, I didn't really wanna go with what they were asking for.
Oh, no, I agree.
That was way too
That's-
much.
That's too much.
So,
So if you wanna give me a rate, I can tell you what it does to the bottom line.
what was
Like
it?
12?
Yeah, I'm okay with that,
Okay.
yeah,
What does 12 look like?
cause that person will also
He's-
instruct the scale
Yeah.
and be working with the other one, so.
33,220,
I can live with that.
Yep.
33,220,
yes. That brings the change for the line to $1,714, a 5.4% increase.
okay. How about you, Jessica, can you live with that?
Sounds great.
Okay,
Did you say 33,200?
yeah,
Yes.
okay.
I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, I just don't understand the percentage increase.
On the line.
Yeah, cause if we're giving,
Because I think it just speaks to the previous year not being.
oh, it's extra
budgeted.
hours as well.
Well, yes,
A little bit, okay.
a little bit for bailing,
Okay,
Mhm. Which wasn't previous,
yes.
okay. Yep, okay. All right, are we all good with that? All right, what else do we have to talk about that we hadn't?
fire
Fire.
salaries.
No, highways all set?
Do you wanna vote on the overall, transfer station budget? Are you done talking about transfer station?
Is everything else been all set on that? Let's revise it, cause if we voted on it
So the
before-
bottom, I have a bottom line for that department right now, 146,522.
Is that line, 222?
Yes,
Say it again, please.
146,522,
Okay,
an increase of 31,914, 30.5%.
146,542.
522,
And an increase of
30.5%. Oh, sorry, 31,914.
Or
30.5%.
okay.
And that's mostly driven
Yeah, that's tipping fees.
tipping fees.
So, by the way, like, you know, it was substantiated by our visit to Lamprey today, where they've got everybody's tonnage outlined, and we're at 94% of our annual budget with Lamprey. Nobody else really is, everybody's on mark for 3/4 of the year, for third
Okay.
quarter.
So you don't think that we have to increase it more based on what we were told earlier?
There's no way to really know.
I know.
But, you know, I have to think that we're good. We've went over those numbers 75 times, we'll just have to
Okay.
see what happens.
I know we have to, at the next meeting, talk about our dumping permits.
Yes,
So does that help offset, well, it just goes to the general fund, right? It doesn't help offset the sanitation budget itself, right?
well, yes, but indirectly because it's in the general fund.
Okay, all right. Okay. Any other questions on sanitation? Okay, let's have a motion then, please.
I'll move that we, fund sanitation at 146,522.
Seconded?
All right, any other discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Okay, motion passed, all right. Let's see. Fire salaries, was that the only other thing that we had to talk about?
That's what we
I
planned.
do have updates on liability insurance and the Avatar contract amount and some things like that.
Can you tell me now what
Where
is
we
our
are.
overall?
Yep,
Because I think that will,
we are at an even 3% increase.
okay.
Whoops, I'm on-
And I can give you more detail about that if you,
Oh, wow.
So it was 3.3, now it's an even 3?
yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right, now we can go to the fire department salaries. So, Mark had submitted his proposal for a $10,000 increase. The goal is to get firefighters to minimum wage.
So last year, it was just for Jessica, because you're new to this. Last year, they had a budget of $46,000. The select board for 2019 proposed raising it to $51,000. That was cut through the budget committee's approved budget, the budget that was ultimately approved. And the select board allocated that money to them anyway. So the fire department is currently operating with a salary budget of $51,000, even though that is not what's reflected in the town approved budget.
Okay.
So while they're asking for an increase of $10,000, that's going to be really a felt increase for them of $5,000.
Got it.
does Mark understand that when he was asking for the 10?
Yes.
But he still wants the 10?
Well, he wants the extra, he wants
He
the
wants
5
5.
more than what he has now, yes.
Oh, okay, so he knows that he would only get 5 more
Yes.
than what, okay.
Yes.
All right. That's good to know, though, I mean, that's easier to explain.
Yeah.
All right, okay, so at last night's meeting, there was some discussion about fire salaries, and they're requesting to see the formula and to see the third quarter, see 3 months' worth of history. They only are paid quarterly, so it would only be one payment that they would be seeing. However, Charlie, I don't know, I'm gonna talk to Charlie, is that okay, guys?
Yeah.
He's the one that asked for it. I don't know if that was, at the previous meeting, it was voted not to supply that information, correct?
It was passed in May.
Not to.
No,
No, two.
to,
I'm gonna have
the
to look
only,
at it
the
again, I
only
looked at it
adjustment I
today.
made was that it was noted that we wanted points and how you earn the points. And I wanted to know a 3-month sample. But when it came to the minutes, the 3-month sample was not in the motion. And that's when I made the motion last night to put it in so that we could have
And did the
a
last night's
sample.
pass or fail?
It passed
Passed, okay.
unanimous.
But I believe the minutes reflected in the May, that they didn't support that.
No, it
No,
was
it
passed.
was,
It was passed unanimously.
it was when he asked for the separation of the assistant's account
Yeah,
that was defeated.
Okay.
administrative.
Oh, it was administrative, that was the
that
one,
was
I'm
the one
sorry,
that was
you're
defeated.
right, okay, thank you.
I'm not sure I understand.
Okay,
The
but
separation
they-
of this administrative.
They wanted to have your salary, Chuck's salary,
Oh, right, yeah.
Selma's salary. The committee voted not to supply the data, or it is what,
Okay, but they do want the fire department's
They want they want
pay
this,
structure.
they want the pay structure, the formula that they use to determine the firefighters' salaries, and they want to
Okay.
see, a 3-month period and how, but they only get paid quarterly, so you're only gonna get one.
Yeah, that's all,
Um,
just wanted one to
and
go
that can
on.
change
It does
every
change.
quarterly, just
Well, I
because it's
understand
based
that.
on calls.
I'm well aware.
So, so they
Okay.
want to see that, so, do
I
you
will-
want to
I
tell
will get
Mark?
that. Yeah, I
Okay.
can follow up with
All
him.
right.
Thank you.
And I think to his advantage, he should have it,
I've already
before
warned
his-
him, he knows it's coming,
well,
so
but he
it's
should
just-
have it before he meets with them,
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
so, okay. So, so what is your thought on the fire department, Jess? Any other questions you might have on that? Because then we should vote on that, because we didn't on the bottom line, right?
Right,
Yeah.
so I would propose, an increase of less than 10,000, only because I feel like last year we allocated 10,000, whatever was approved was kind of irrelevant, we authorized or allocated 10,000, he's asking for another 5, it feels like we made the market adjustment. It feels like this is another market adjustment. I understand fully that they're underpaid.
Can we do the same thing we did last year, just call it 5,000 and give them 5,000 from somewhere else, I'm assuming that's what happened last year.
Well, so what happened last year, so the board needs to show the budget committee what the bottom line is of money that you are requesting, but also where in all of these lines you anticipate spending the money. It's not really transparent to propose money in a way that you know you're not gonna spend it. In the end, you do have the authority to move money around, but that's because needs
didn't
are
get
shifting
approved or
and
something.
things are shifting and, right, and because if your budget doesn't get approved, you can still move the money around. But you should always present to the budget committee and then the people what your intention is. Because likewise, the budget committee, when they review this budget and decide whether or not to modify the budget, they're gonna do that based on how you are purporting that you're gonna spend the money. So in the end, you do have flexibility though, that way.
So like 7,500. I mean, unfortunately, that's not gonna make any kind of dent in the overall.
No, because the 7,500 is gonna be going just 25 to 30 people divided, so you're thinking about it that way.
Yeah, no, I mean, in the overall increase, 3%.
Yeah, I wouldn't,
Mm.
I mean, I don't even think it would make it in the 10th position, right? I mean, it wouldn't. I would say, I would be in favor of the full 10,000, I think.
But it's really only 5. You understand that, right?
Yes, I
Okay,
understand that.
Okay. 'Cause we're putting it as 10 because it's above what the budget committee recommended.
Well, because you have to do it based on what the approved,
Right.
from what the approved budget
Right.
is, yes.
That's fine.
I mean, you can make a motion, I mean,
No, I'm fine. I do think we need to figure out where there's additional money we can find.
mm-hmm.
Whether that's road maintenance,
Another strategy, if it's helpful, is, what you can afford in expenses, is that one way to think about it is the percentage increase that you're proposing. The other is, what is the percentage difference in property tax
Oh, yeah.
revenues? So if you get to a standstill where you're gonna really struggle with these difficult decisions, you can also switch and let's talk about revenue and see what we think the revenue picture is going to do and see if that offsets this in a way that you feel more comfortable with the 3%, because
Okay.
maybe the 3% is really a 1.5% increase on the tax rate. Because
Okay.
at this point, we don't really know that.
Mm-hmm.
So is it net, I know you wanted to talk to me about this, Carolyn, but is revenue net against expense in the end when it comes to percentage that affects the property tax rate?
It's the full proposed expenditure budget minus the revenue that's in the sheet you're holding, divided by the total taxable value of land in Rollinsford. So, it's hard to know how the taxable land that can change. More houses get built, maybe more elderly exemptions qualify. There are a number of factors there, but values are overall going up with the housing market.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't change what your bill's gonna be, really, if it's evenly dispersed.
Mm-hmm.
So for sure, other income helps this expense budget.
Jack up the fees for those out-of-towner Camp Raleighs. That's not one thing that.
And we haven't decided to totally shift to revenue, but one of the things we haven't talked about revenue when we've been talking about 2019 revenue is that you do have the opportunity next year, if you want, to take money out of the Transportation Capital Reserve Fund to offset road maintenance or any other transportation infrastructure, including sidewalks.
So that's the $5 or something that
The
they.
$5.
That they put, that's in a reserve fund, that you pay $5 on your registration?
Per every registration.
Additional of what the cost would be to go into a fund.
I missed that, I don't understand.
Yeah, she, I didn't think she knew
Every
that,
time you
yeah.
register a vehicle,
Yeah,
there's an extra $5 fee.
I just started doing that, registering it, so I had someone else do them for me already.
So it's not something that's itemized out for you, so you probably wouldn't notice, but
Yeah.
your registration is now costing you $5 more than it would have 3 years ago for that fee.
And what does the fee go to?
So it goes into a capital reserve fund that,
For rows?
Well, for transportation infrastructure.
Mhm.
So typically doesn't the registration goes to the state, right? The money goes to the state.
Well, you
this is
write
just
two
an-
checks, one goes to the state and one
here.
goes to Rollinsford.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, sure.
So
but the state gets most of it.
Got it.
they get a good
Yeah.
hefty share of it. So it can go to sidewalks.
Mhm.
You could build an electric, car charging station if you want. It doesn't have to be roads, but roads is the obvious.
Yeah.
And is that somewhere on here?
It is not listed there. It's, because
Can't be
those
much.
reserve funds are money out rather than money in. So it's not listed
Okay,
here,
good
but it
point.
is something in the revenues. Actually, I didn't realize you were looking at revenue. It's yellowed out as non-income, in that, I think, second
Vehicle
category.
surcharge.
Because it used to be, when it was first created, it was erroneously reported as income. It's not income because it's not going into the general fund. So it's income when you all decide to use it and transfer it in from the revenue fund. The
So is this
capital
held
reserve.
by the trustees of the trust fund?
Yes.
Okay.
And how much is in there?
I have not checked the balance. I was looking at it, it was one of the things I was gonna do before 6 o'clock, but it couldn't happen. I believe it's at about 220 before we make this year's transfer.
220?
Mhm.
Yes, like
This
there's,
is just from this $5 fee?
Mhm.
yes, and I'm.
Yeah, but it's
But
been a
how
couple
is
of
there only
years.
8,000?
Well, so it's been 2 years.
Yeah,
Well, that was a
It's only
first
1,000
partial
people, yeah.
year. It was late in the year by the time that was implemented.
Okay, got it.
So,
A lot more cars than I thought here. Cool.
um, I'm looking for a balance. It's not listed on the trustees spreadsheet that I have, so I'd have to inquire with them
Okay.
what the balance is, but I believe the ending, 2018 ending balance was 220, so we haven't made our 2019 transfer in yet. But, don't quote me on that, so that's, not quite 2.5 years worth of revenue, I believe, if I have that right.
Okay, so we do have to go back to fire department and vote to approve or not approve the dollar on that. Where do we stand on salaries? Is it 10 or is it 5?
I'm in favor of 10.
But giving them 5 because we're making
Yeah,
it for the other
but it's a
not
10
going in, but it's a
it's
10
10
hits.
increase.
Yeah,
Into the
10 to
budget.
the bottom,
yeah, yeah.
Well, so Miles was having trouble with, he said he was okay with that, but he was having trouble with what's going on with the bottom line still, which is why I diverted
Mhm.
you into the revenue
That's okay.
conversation.
So what's the total for fire department based on, that 10, it's gonna be this,
That's
Miles, are you okay with the
145.
10?
I'm okay with the 10.
Okay,
Yep.
so that's gonna be the 12, right, percent increase on fire? That,
Um,
nothing changed on that?
They're at a 12%, that hasn't changed.
Okay, so everything on there is what was proposed.
Correct, is
Okay.
on your sheet, correct,
Okay.
yes.
So, can we have a motion to, go forward with the fire?
Yeah, I'll move that we fund fire at 145,307.
Okay,
Second?
okay, all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carried. All right, now we can, is there anything
So,
else?
well, I just want to bring your attention to a few changes that I made. We received a new Avatar contract. So line 50, I changed from the last version of this printout you received.
Okay,
So the 6,048 represents the currently proposed 2020 Avatar contract. Keeping steady at the 11 days that we currently have them.
Oh, but
when-
it wasn't budgeted for appropriately.
Well, so that's why it's such a big jump
Okay.
that's just a note about why there's such a big jump from 2019 and we're set to overexpend it and that's why.
all right,
So it's not as much of a jump as it appears to be.
okay. All right, So what we'll do is we'll go and, after you tell us all of them, we'll go down to the bottom line and improve the bottom line, which will take
Okay.
care of all of those,
Okay,
if that's okay with everyone.
Yep.
Okay, so then what's insurance?
so insurance, unemployment, workers' comp are both under personnel administration. Those are reported to, they'll be coming in at slightly less, you see,
Okay.
than what they were this year.
Okay.
And then down, past government buildings, under insurance is the property liability, which is going up 2.1%. So those are actual quoted amounts now for next year.
See that word?
What
What
line?
number?
104.
Got it. Tiny
Oh, yeah.
Up 2 point,
1.
Okay. Is that all that,
Those are all the changes,
that
but,
you made?
yeah.
All right.
The, you said health insurance, that number is
So
accurate?
that number, I don't believe that's new to this sheet. I think you had that accurately reflected on the last sheet that you had, but it does reflect the 6%, not the 6%, the 7.5% we are planning on this year.
Increase.
But
But then
yeah,
we-
when
then
the
we-
rate went up 7.5%.
But then we had some that we projected were gonna change and didn't, so we're bringing it up, we're getting rid of some of that.
It's still going down
It's still-
overall
yeah.
because of that, yes.
I
Okay.
think we've done,
This is the last one.
It's just more, that line is more than what I originally was hoping it to be because I budgeted it with a 6% increase
Yeah.
at the current plans.
Okay, so this, the increase in here now is what you've gotten from
Yes.
them, so it's a good number, okay.
Yes,
But it's still going down, which isn't good.
right.
Okay. Any other, okay, so,
and did dental disappear from here?
it's
Dental
on
did not
62.
disappear, I did, perhaps I, alright,
Oh,
under
it's here.
personnel administration, it's line 62.
Okay.
That number is 2614 right now, 2,614. That reflects, and you see the note there, the full year is gonna cost 3485.
Mhm.
And that is if the employee and employer are to 50-50 split the cost of that. I sent out surveys with a flyer to that effect to employees, I have not heard back from them. Further, the numbers I'm using are last year's numbers, I'm not sure that last year's numbers are accurate. I'm waiting for Health Trust to confirm that
Okay.
those numbers are good.
Now, is there a minimum of people that have to be
Yes,
In
we
the
need 6
program.
of the 8 eligible people to sign
6
up.
out of the 8?
And we've had 3 people who have not wanted to take it, so we need one of those people
To change
to
their mind.
move over.
Okay.
And then everybody,
And did you give them a deadline for determination?
I was hoping for today, but it wasn't written there, I said that to department heads, so,
Okay,
I'll follow up, I hope by Monday,
okay,
I can tell you for real.
all right.
So if less than 6 enroll, the cost will go up, or they
We are
won't
not,
be able
by
to?
law, not allowed to
Okay.
have it
So then it would just come out. It would be revised by.
Right, you
Wednesday.
can take it out entirely, or,
Yeah.
you can discuss it further and, decide if you want a different funding option, but the short answer is it doesn't happen.
Well, can you ask the reason why they're not, because it might be because they have it with somebody else.
Well, they do all have it with somebody else.
Ah.
So the problem is, the last proposal was at, completely at the employee's expense.
Mm-hmm.
So this is now more enticing, that it would
Mhm.
only be half their expense. Is that enough, given what the plan offers?
Mm-hmm.
Is that enough to move them over?
Okay, from the other plan
From
that
the
they
other plan
have
that
to
they're
this
on.
one?
Right,
Okay, or have both, because they can do that too.
they could,
Okay,
Can you?
I do,
I
Oh,
think you
really?
can.
yeah.
absolutely.
Dental only,
You can have,
medical.
3.
Yeah,
So
I have
it's
2
not
different
one.
ones.
So you submit one claim until you expend the whole benefit?
Yeah.
Huh?
At my dentist's office, they encourage you to do it.
They do it all for me too.
Never heard of that.
I have no idea.
Because it's reasonable, you couldn't do that with medical.
Yeah,
because
but
it
the
isn't
problem-
reasonable.
Yeah, and the problem is your dental insurance, the benefits aren't good.
Yeah.
So
they're-
you might as well spend a little extra money and then have more
Yeah.
benefits,
Yeah.
especially if you have teeth that you should have taken better care of when you were a kid.
Mm-hmm, you got soft teeth. Okay,
Can we talk about road maintenance for
yeah,
a minute?
yeah, what
So-
line?
198.
198, yep.
So this year we've spent roughly 322 of the 350.
Mm-hmm,
And part of that was engineering for it wasn't, for the culvert on Sligo.
No,
None of
it's
that?
supplies and whatever for engineering, but no, that's your choice if you want it to hit that line. It's
Okay.
hitting it's
I
hitting
thought
the
it-
culvert,
I thought
the
it-
culvert reserve.
Oh,
But also know that the 322 that you're looking at is not entirely complete. They haven't fully gravelled the overlays that happened this year. They were waiting for the new truck, and then the new truck has been delayed and been
Yep.
delayed, so now they're doing it manually. So they haven't purchased all the gravel they need. It shouldn't go up by that much more, but
Okay.
that's not a final.
but their
decision.
gravel is overspent, so should some of that have gone to the road maintenance? Because if you look at their gravel line, it's overspent.
It is overexpended, yes.
Okay,
It depends on how you look at it.
okay,
It could go in either. I mean,
Okay.
it's
But
certainly
even-
road related.
Even $4,000 more of gravel.
Well, right, it's
Um,
still
you know,
under, yes.
So I would propose we cut that to 325, which would bring us much closer to 2% overall. And then we could take some of the money that we've been unknowingly socking away to do, because I know George wants to do sidewalks and they are in absolutely terrible shape
mhm.
from the motor vehicle surcharge. So if you made that change to
All right, so you wanna move the budgeted amount to 325?
Reduce
just,
the budget to 325.
yeah, just to see what that does.
Right, that's what I meant, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, okay. So that puts it down 7.1% on that line. And that makes it an even 2% increase on the whole budget.
Okay. This, the expenses, does that include all of the extra projects like the fire station and Church Street and all of those in here now?
Cricket line.
Cricket Lane?
Nothing has happened on Cricket Lane, and I'm not sure they're gonna get
Oh.
to Cricket Lane this year, even though,
Okay,
you know.
But are all those invoices in there?
The fire station one is the big one that we would wanna make sure, cause that's $14,000.
That was another paving company that would not use.
Right,
so-
and so I
okay,
would
just wanna
wanna
make sure that's
check
there.
on that,
Okay.
but otherwise I believe so. But that paving one is the only one I would wanna hit, you know, cause that's a $14,000 error, if we're not
Right,
right on that.
Right. The other ones were more our men's hours, not a lot of material, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Well, and they were gonna do Church Street, they were doing swales and stuff on
Mhm.
Church Street, and I'm sure that those aren't in yet.
Okay,
So I don't know that, you know, I still think, like you say, it's gonna be, you know, maybe like $6,000 more than that tops. Like, I don't think it's gonna be extraordinarily more than that, assuming that the parking lot
I mean,
is.
even if we reduced it to 330, but yeah, I mean, I agree that we should have an accurate depiction of what was spent, but,
but their suggestion was to finish Sligo. And the estimation was pretty much what it was what it was on the beginning.
Right, it's gonna be the same amount of,
So that is much less than this, so that we would still be able to do that.
and the overlay on.
One overlay on Woodlands?
yes.
Yeah. Heritage is done, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So Woodlands, so it would cost approximately the same as what you did this year, because the Woodlands is about the same mileage as the Heritage Moses car. So it's that overlay, it's finishing Sligo, the overlay in the Woodlands, and then he wanted to use the, you know, the bit of money beyond that still in the budget line to do sidewalks.
Mhm.
But I think we could do what you're suggesting, and still do that,
Yeah,
I
That's a good
think.
idea.
So if
I
you.
just think it makes this number a lot more palatable.
Mhm. The bottom line,
Yeah.
too, yeah. If you wanna make a motion, we can go forward with that.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we reduce road maintenance to 325,000.
All right, seconded, all right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we're 98 is reduced by that,
Reduce it to
325,
325,
325,000.
okay. And what was the second part of it, what did you wanna do about the sidewalks and the?
So on the revenue part, I don't know how exactly, what the mechanism is to move.
It's a warrant article to move it into, just to expend from that fund a certain amount of money
Okay.
for a certain purpose, which I would just say for roadway improvements, much like the roadway warrant articles used to say, but funded from that transportation reserve fund, and then you can speak to it at those public meetings about what you intend to do with those funds.
Okay, so by reducing this down though to, by
Well,
25,000, is there gonna be room to do sidewalks?
Probably.
so you can make the warrant article all about sidewalks for that amount of money, funded in that way, or you can or you can keep it at 350 and just word the warrant article so that it funds the operating budget for that amount of money.
Or you could put sidewalk repairs as another line and have the money funded and there's no impact to the bottom line. Cause your revenue's
Well-
gonna offset it. Right? So then you have a line that says repairing sidewalks, and then you have a warrant article for the revenue to pay for repairing the sidewalks. So it's a wash, it's not an impact to the budget. Only if
It's-
the line doesn't get passed, the
Yeah,
warrant
if
doesn't
it-
get
if it
passed,
doesn't
but then
get
you don't do
passed.
the job.
Well, right, and for that reason, I wouldn't put it in the operating budget because,
How can you spend money on something that you haven't approved?
well, because it's part of the operating budget. So when, assuming it makes it through the budget committee and it's get on the ballot for the amount of money that you're proposing, the whole thing is in there, you're raising and appropriating all that money. So,
But where is sidewalks here? That's my point, it's not in here.
well, it's part of road resurfacing. Road is viatic
Okay.
ways and you can put, you can put sidewalks in there. It's part of a road, it's considered part of a roadway. I don't
Then-
think you need to
Then
call
the
it something
warrant
else.
to remove the funds would only be to help support road maintenance line.
So
In
this
the
is,
intention of doing sidewalks, but you, in my opinion, you can't really say it's gonna pay for something that you're not listing individually in the budget. It would
Well-
be,
so then I think
kinda-
the better way to do that might be to have the warrant article say you're gonna do sidewalks,
in the road maintenance.
in its own warrant article and not have it in the operating budget. If you list it in the operating budget, then you're raising the money via taxes and you may or may not have the offsetting revenue.
So your warrant article would be to have the sidewalks done for this amount and the revenue to come from this. And it's a one, and
Right.
it doesn't happen unless a warrant happens.
Right.
So you're
Right.
not, you're gonna increase it if the warrant passes, cause it's gonna be then in your budget.
Well, no, it's not gonna be in your budget.
Well, oh,
So-
cause it's gonna be a capital,
Right, which
Okay.
means you are only spending the
Spending
money
money
on
on-
sidewalks.
okay.
Or we have to be careful about how
That's
we're
what we
wording it
should
so
do.
that it offers you the flexibility that you intend.
yep, okay. Yep, so I would leave the reduction the way this was, bring it down to 325 and do the separate warrant article for the sidewalks. Does that make sense for everyone?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, all right. Okay,
Okay, so I'm gonna add, since we have under there capital projects listed, I'm going to add sidewalks for, and funded from the capital reserve fund.
okay.
And how much are you allocating, the 25 difference, or?
I think that makes sense. I have no clue what,
Yeah, I wouldn't have any idea, but I think that there's some real problems in certain areas on Main and to the road to the school and stuff, so it may take that, so.
Yeah, I
We
think
can do whatever
25
we can
sounds great.
do that
yeah,
needs the most priority, and then if we have to, we can go back and do it the next year.
right,
Okay.
All right, so you wanna make it 25?
yep.
Okay.
Okay.
I have to get to the pharmacy in the next, I have to leave in the next 10 minutes, do you think that's possible?
Oh, I think so.
Okay,
I think so.
I have to get
We're
it to Dover by 8. That's
Yeah,
kinda close.
we're close to getting this, right? We're close to getting, yeah.
Can't sit, right?
Nope, not sick.
It
All
Not
right.
anymore.
Kidding, I'm kidding.
Anything else we wanna talk about in the budget that we haven't already addressed?
So you do need to, it doesn't necessarily have to be tonight, but keep the default budget on your radar. You do need to
Yep.
vote on the bottom line of the and discuss and make sure you're on the same page about the default budget, and revenues.
Okay, so, let's vote on the bottom, total of the bottom operating budget, just to make sure that we didn't miss anything. So what is the proposed,
For the operating budget, I have $2,449,219,
all right, which is,
which is an increase of $47,141,
yeah,
which is 2%.
awesome, very good.
Here, he does that.
2,449,217, which is an increase of 47,141, 2%.
So I'll make a motion that we fund the operating budget at $2,449,217,000 for 2020.
Seconded, all right, all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. Awesome, all right.
Good job.
All right, so now the capital projects. Cruise control. Okay, so that's the stuff that's in the CIP, right?
Well, it's not all in the CIP.
Right.
Sidewalks is not CIP.
Yeah,
The land appraisal is funded by the Conservation Capital Reserve Fund, and then the town hall assessment, if you wanna do that, would be by taxation.
okay. Now, what is your thoughts about, we had Tamara from the conservation stating
Oh,
that possibly
right, thank you for that.
should consider increasing our contribution to the conservation in hopes of trying to hold land to begin sold to developers.
Mhm.
Is that the 5,000? That's not the 5,000, right?
I think that's what we're doing now.
Not the 5,000 I was mentioning. The 5,000 I was mentioning is what we would pay on behalf of a landowner who was wanting to get a survey done, for example, to put something into
So
conservation.
don't really have anything here.
So there isn't anything listed,
So
right?
it
I
has
just
to be
added a
something
line.
different, yeah.
Which, it's already in the warrant. It's always something we've done year after year at $10,000.
Oh, the Conservation Land Trust Fund.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So what are your thoughts?
I think it makes sense. I think it's kind of a drop in the bucket, but it's better than nothing.
Mhm.
I mean, it's better than what we've been doing.
So do we wanna make a recommendation on that? So we've always put 10,000 in.
I don't know what always
Well,
means, but for
recent
recent memory
years.
that I'm aware of,
So
yes.
she was looking at more of,
She suggested 25 to get people's attention as a
Mm-hmm.
conversation starter, but really ultimately much more than that in the following years.
I think that's gonna be a tough sell for 25, to be
Yeah,
honest with you.
I had
Um,
the same thought. Maybe 15 or 20,
I would support 15.
okay.
We have to do baby steps, I think that would be a real hard sell. But
Well,
You
so
can
the other
also-
side of it
you
is,
can hear what the public has to say, and
And
then
they
you
can
change it,
revise
and
it
they
at
can
deliberative
deliberative,
session,
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right, so,
So go with the recommendation of 25, or,
now I'd go with the 15.
oh, okay.
And then they can
And
up
let
it to
it-
25 if they choose to.
Okay, okay.
I think making an effort to bring it up is,
Yep.
so I'll make a motion that we increase that to be 15,000.
Okay, I'll second that.
All right, we'll just go ahead because, so all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Okay, so we're changing that to the 15,000.
Got it.
Okay, motion passed. anything else on the capital projects that we have to discuss that we haven't already discussed?
Conservation interests.
I'm not sure that the board has really decided that, how you feel about, an assessment of this building.
I don't think we have a choice, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
We got to make our decision of what we are going to do. And we can't make that decision unless we know what this building is. Space Needs has to get going, and I know that, I just haven't been on straight, but, so we need to, I think we need to go forward with it and find out where our pros and cons are with this building and what it would take to make it work for everyone. If it's not building a new building for police, then we can, you know, work with what's downstairs, maybe add a little addition on the side or whatever, you know, to make it feasible. I don't know, but, you know, we need to know how much it's gonna take to make this go to code. I truly believe that.
is this something we have to decide tonight, or,
No, well, all right, so, it's not part of CIP.
right?
So next week, Wednesday, is CIP and highway. So no, but at the same time, any warrant article with money will ultimately need the budget committee's,
But we're meeting Monday night, right?
you are meeting Monday
We could
night,
do
so
it
you
Monday
can
night.
further discuss it Monday night.
But, will you have a quote by then, or no?
I would anticipate not,
Okay.
and
I
you
would
know,
just love
I
to
don't know when I would, I know, like, it's another
Yeah,
shot in the
I
dark,
know.
like,
Yeah,
Because if it's 50 or 100,
that we can't.
then.
well, right,
Right.
so, you know, it's probably going to be December by the time the budget committee is
So-
recommending or not, maybe even January when they're, but at the same time, knowing what you intend will help the budget committee decide how they feel about your whole entire proposal. So,
Mhm. Yeah,
You wanna wait and think about it a little bit?
Yeah,
Okay, let's do that, let's do that. So we can go ahead and go forward with what we've approved.
okay,
And, we can talk about it a little more on Monday on this building and see
Yep.
what we wanna do.
okay.
And what else? We don't have to do anything else, right, for this budget? It's,
you can, revenue still needs to get figured out, it
Okay.
can wait until Monday if you wanna figure it out on Monday,
She has to get going, so.
whatever you wanna do.
Are you okay with it, Miles? If we
Yeah, I'm
wait,
fine.
Let's do it on Monday. All right, we'll do revenues on Monday. Okay. All right.
Awesome.
Good work, everyone.
Yes.
I think it's,
Did,
yeah, I was just gonna make a justified,
Oh.
yeah. All right, so we decided that we're going to, think on this building, having the assessment
Great.
done on it. And, we'll talk about it on Monday's meeting,
Fantastic.
and then we'll do revenues on Monday's meeting,
Cool,
okay? So, if everyone's all set with that, a motion to adjourn?
seconded.
All right, all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
All right, great job, everyone. We'll get there.
yeah.
I'm feeling good about
Safe
it.
travels.
Thank you, I'm
No
gonna
speed.
jet, oh, are you kidding me? Nobody called the police. I was jetting here too, and there was a, like, I don't think I've ever seen them before, but they were facing Dover on Route 4 in
Like
Rollinsford.
Did you?
Mhm.
That's it.
Because they
Oh,
couldn't.
Right there.
No,